Hello friends and fashion lovers, welcome and welcome back. Thank you for clicking on this video. In this video I'll be showing you how to make this lovely baby dress. For this tutorial I used fashion fabric about 1 meter and a lining piece to go with it. I also used the button and a zipper. So right here I've already traced out my basic bodice, both the front and the back basic bodice. So please note that the front bodice will be cut on fold while some adjustment will be made to the back bodice. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out the front bodice. To my back bodice, I'm going to measure where I want the design to start from. So depending on where you want the design to start from, just measure that down. And from there, I am just going to place this cone. You can use whatever would aid you with a slight curve. So just use whatever aid you. But this is what I used because I don't want it too wide. Just know that the bigger whatever you use is, the wider your design will be, or the bigger your design will be as well. So from there, I am just marking it all the way down. So you can go ahead and modify this, make sure that the inside goes a lot in to have a proper heart shape. It all depends on your choice. So right here I'm going to go ahead and mark my zipper allowance, and then at the top part I'm going to mark my seaming allowance of 1 centimeter. So if you are using 1/2 inch to stitch it up, mark 1/2 inch. Then I'm just going to connect the lines. So now it's just to cut out the design. You are done with the adjustments. So when you cut it out, it's going to look like this. Now to the sleeve. There will be a link in the description box on how to draft the sleeve. You can check that out. It's a recent video before this. So I've already traced out my sleeve block on a fresh pattern paper. I'll be making a cap sleeve. So I am going to adjust my sleeve now to be a cap sleeve. You have to mark out where you want your cap sleeve to end. So about 3 inches to 4 inches depending on the size of the child. So I am working with a H6 pattern. So about 4 inch was good for me. So where your cap's height ends, you can mark 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch from your cap's height, and do well to connect it back to where you want your cap sleeve to end on the body of the garment. So mine, this is what it looks like. I'm just going to quickly go ahead and cut this out. Mine is not just straight. Yours could be straight, it could just be anything. And next is for me to slash and spread it for more volume, since I want a bit of gathering at the top of my sleeve. So I slashed it and I'm spreading it on another pattern paper. So just make sure that you add gum to it, and then go ahead and retrace the sleeve head and also the down part. You don't want it to be straight, you want it slightly curved. At least for me, I like mine to be slightly curved, because when you spread it, the down part will not look the same. So you have to mimic the curved again. With that, just cut it out the way I'm doing. So now I have my sleeve and my bodice, and the only pattern I don't have here is the skirt piece, which I will explain to you shortly. So using my pattern to cut out my fashion fabric and my lining, don't forget to place the notch where your sleeve will sit. So I have 2 pieces for the back and also a lining piece to go with it. For the sleeve, I have 4 pieces because I am using the same fabric to line the sleeve. And for the front, I cut the front on fold. So I have a piece for the fashion fabric and a piece for the lining. So the front was cut on fold. And now to my skirt piece. For the width of my skirt piece is the waist measurement times 2.5. So whatever the round waist measurement is, just multiply it by 2.5. And the length is your dress length minus your bodice length plus seaming allowance. That's the length of your skirt piece. So that being said, let's just quickly go ahead and stitch this up. So I'm going to be placing my fashion fabric right side facing, the back and the front. You do same for the lining. Place it right side facing the back and the front, and you're going to stitch it along the shoulder. And for the sleeve, you are going to place it right side facing, and you're going to stitch the down part of the sleeve. Just the down part of the sleeve, you place it right side facing. Now once again for the skirt, the width of the skirt is waist measurement times 2.5, while the length is your desired dress length minus bodice length plus 2-inch seaming allowance. So here I have two pieces. So I've gone ahead and divide my back piece into two because I want to have a zipper in the middle of it. So you want to make sure that while multiplying your waist measurement, you add seaming allowance to that. So assuming that you have added seaming allowance and you have your pieces, go ahead and place it right side facing, and you're going to stitch it. After stitching it, you are going to gather the waist line, and then the same thing will be done for the lining. I want you to note that my lining piece is shorter than my fashion fabric by 2 inches. So right here, I've already stitched my bodice along the shoulder. That's the back and front. I've stitched the shoulder, and I've also used part of my fabric to make a loop for my button. So you want to make sure that the folded part is facing the inside of your bodice, while the open part is facing the outside of your bodice. You want to make sure that you placed it about half an inch away from the neckline. So next for the sleeve, I'm going to go ahead and gather it up to suit the part that I had notched on my bodice. You know, on the bodice, I've already notched where I want the sleeve to sit. So the extra that I slashed and sprayed will be gathered up. So I'm going to stitch the button loop and I'm going to gather the sleeve. So right here I've gathered the sleeve and I've already stitched the button loop on. So this is what it looks. You want to make sure that you have about half an inch to stitch the neckline and half an inch for the cut out design. So you place it about half an inch away from where you are going to be stitching. So here I'm going to place my sleeve right side facing. You are going to make sure that you adjust the gathers while you place the sleeve and make sure that it fits. So after you have pinned the sleeve in place, go ahead and stitch using your located seaming allowance. After stitching, you should have something like this. You should have your cap sleeve right there. So next is for you to bring your lining piece and place right side facing. You want the right side to be facing each other. And you're going to arrange this and you're going to pin the neckline and the back design. So when you're done pinning in place, go ahead and stitch the back cut out and the neckline. After stitching the neckline and the back cut out, go ahead and notch. Don't forget to snip the corners. So when you're done notching, it's time for you to stitch the armhole. So make sure that you sandwich your sleeve in between. Be careful not to catch it while you stitch. You are going to pin your sleeve in place and you're going to take to your sewing machine and stitch. So after stitching the armhole, do well to pass the back piece through the shoulder and turn it right side out. So just tuck the back piece through the shoulder and turn it right side out. So when you're done turning it right side out, you can go ahead and understitch it before giving it a good press. Now I'm going to be working on the belt. So the back tie, this part is about 4 1/4 inch. So I'm just going to place it right side facing, and I'm going to stitch it. After stitching, I'm going to turn it out. The length of the back tie depends on the age of the child, and it also depends on you. So right here, I am going to be placing the back tie on the bodice. I've stitched it and I've turned it right side out. So I am placing it about 3/4 inch away from the hem of my bodice. So make sure it's 3/4 inch away from the down part of your bodice. So you're going to stitch that in place. So after stitching that in place, I'm opening right side facing, and I'm going to be stitching the side of my bodice. So I'm going to be completing the side of my bodice. So now to my skirt piece, I'm just going to adjust the gathers that I have made so that it will be the waist measurements. So you want to adjust this gather so that it will fit to your bodice. Please don't forget that I already joined the side using French seam, and the center back is the part that is open, and I'm repeating the same step for the lining piece. So the skirt lining I'd already joined it too, and I'm just adjusting the gathers so that it will fit as well. So this is the bodice, and this is the lining piece, and also this is the fashion skirt piece right here. So I'm going to stitch it fashion fabric to fashion fabric, lining fabric to lining fabric. Just stitch the skirt to the bodice. After stitching it to the bodice, you should have something like this. So match it up and make sure that the waistline is even. If it's even, go ahead and attach your zipper. For the zipper teeth, I just opened my invisible zipper teeth the way I want it to be placed, and I switched the teeth towards me. And I'm just going to go ahead and pin that in place. So you want to pin it in place, and when you pin it in place, you can do a stair stitch if you are new to it, and be sure that it closes properly. If you're sure of it, then you can go ahead and stitch close the down part of your garment. Some people start by stitching close the down part of their garment before attaching a zipper. Whichever one works for you. Just make sure you get your zipper in only on your fashion fabric. So now after stitching your zipper on your fashion fabric, for the lining, flip the lining over and stitch it about 1/4 inch away from your zipper teeth. You want the zipper to be able to close freely. So after that, don't forget to hem your dress and hem your lining, then attach button to the upper part of the dress. So when you're done, this is how your garment will look like. This is my finished product. I have my zipper installed, my dress hem, and also the lining hemmed. I also have the button attached. So thank you for watching to this point. If this tutorial was helpful in any way, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.